the direction? Oh, I know, I was just thinking the same.
Great, you were not
What you hold it earlier. Perfect.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public comments?
With a public journey.
None. We'll move on. Approval of minutes for June 10th. Need a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Anyone see anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to the update from Mr. McGee.
Has the weekly updates, have those been better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe it gives it a little more, and now that we're down towards the end of this thing, I think that, giving you guys kind of that, it moves really quick. So once a month probably is a little bit overwhelming. So what I did for this month is I just sent out, I basically, summarized what's been going on. Big thing, I think that's most important to probably cover is the C-Wing. We had a really good building committee meeting this evening, talking about budgets, kind of some of the scope gaps that we've identified in the C-Wing that we want to address. Is there action or is just that committee meeting direction tonight enough for me to? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So I'll just touch on it. So in the C-Wing, they went all the way through all the demo. We're starting to go back in with new. So we've kind of identified all of the hidden potential pitfalls in there. So the contractor feels really good about where we're sitting in our budget. And meaning when I talk about contingencies, so we're able to add some additional scope for C-Wing that wasn't initially planned. We had accepted all the alternates, which included lighting, carpet, new floor finishes. One of the items we weren't sure is, patch and repair areas within the C-Wing that were demoed or fixed. We didn't fully include painting all of those surfaces. So we've identified through project savings within the contractor contingency where we can cover and add those scopes of work back into the project. So, which is great because now you'll walk into that space and it'll feel fresh and new, just like the rest of the building. So, site safety, we're still continuing to be, Jackson's done a great job. We had one incident earlier in the year, slip and fall. That person had come back to work. They're doing well, but it was something that was a marked incident. Right now, their big thing that they're concerned about is the heat. So they've got big things of water around the site for workers to be able to have access to. And we're working in that C-Wing attic space. We're running all new ductwork, fixing ductwork, wiring, getting ready for all new electrical. So they've instituted what I call as a whole watch, or they have to go up in pairs to be able to monitor if somebody's getting overheated so that they can, force them to take breaks to get out, cool down. So really take safety, very serious. And the next step is a lot of civil site work that's happening. So a lot of big equipment moving around on site again. So they want to be mindful of their subs. And anytime trustees, if you want to take tours, we'll just schedule that and make sure it's at a time that's safe for us to be out on site. And if there's any interest in that, please let me know and we'll get that coordinated. So let's see, things that are happening this week. We've got our playground equipment was shipped on the 3rd. It was supposed to be here and started install on the 7th. It's kind of out in the ether right now. So our playground equipment provider is trying to track down, should have an update on that. shouldn't affect anything. The Jackson's got the site prepped and ready for them to install it. And all of our curbing, all that work that we have to do to put our pieces back in. So, and what I've done is tried to, everything that we've talked about, or I've did in weekly updates, I've moved that down. We'll just keep a record of it. And then anything that's new, there's not a ton. It was really the work in the C wing that I wanted to cover tonight. When it looks at our budget, E-rate is an item that's been carrying in our contingency. And I've been assuming that we're going to spend all of those dollars out of our bucket. Turns out that looks like it's going to be passed and it's going to be funded. So I've adjusted our percentage of risk to 50% instead of 100%, which actually brings our owner contingency back into the positive. And that's allowed us to even, things that paying for the playground equipment out of that, which is typically not carried in FF or in that contingency. All of our site safety, which is our cameras, access control, we've been able to fund through those, which typically is carried in a separate bucket. So really been able to manage the district's budget and get all the things that we need and still be in the positive. Also working with the general contractor to give us back some of their contingency. As I said, we're able to fund some of these additional scopes, but really I'm going to challenge them to now do a deduct because right now it's all built into their contract. I'd like to lower their contract value, have that come back to us, and then we can manage it with scopes unrelated to, things that would be nice from a general contracting side, and we can make those decisions and be more proactive on our end as we've got additional things that the district, I think, wants to get taken care of. So, let's see, highlights. Gosh, I don't know if you've seen site. They're really going great guns. We'll start seeing asphalt towards the end of the month. That'll include the parking lot. There's lots of concrete. They're going to be pouring concrete for curbing, sidewalks. They're going to be pouring concrete for about 3 weeks. Every day other than 2 for about 3 weeks straight. They're going to be pouring our mow strips, getting ready for irrigation. And then the paving for our sports court is going to happen. So really cool stuff happening on the outside where it starts to look like a finished product. We were able to walk through it earlier and you really start to see those finishes coming together. And it was really starting to take shape nicely. We did get a commitment from the contractor to allow for kindergarten, what was it called? Kindergarten
Kindergarten camp.
Kindergarten camp.
And I brought
To
it.
give a portion of kindergarten, library, and a portion potentially of the admin for us to be able to receive those kiddos and have a safe space for them to perform and have activities.
Just tell me where you want me to go.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of jumping around.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
we've reviewed and approved the June pay application. The items in the C wing, those have been officially submitted to the architect and myself. Those are the change orders for the C wing. Those are the only outstanding ones that we've got right now. So we're going to get those things approved so we can try to make sure that doesn't bust our schedule at the back end of the year. One item that I missed on here that just came up was we need to develop our owners trading. They're developing, meaning the contractor's developing owners training calendar. The district needs to decide who needs to participate in that. What those are is we're blocking out for major systems. So mechanical, the thermostats, we're talking about cameras, we're going to do the electrical systems. So they're more maintenance derived as well as admin, but it's really open to whomever the district feels should be there. They're all recorded, videotape, so they're just going to have that record, but it's also a good time to sit down, kind of kick the tires of how does this system, how much flexibility do we have in our mechanical controls? So that's something that I started to get the list put together. I'll share that with Ann and Mr. Beckham, and then let them kind of maybe put together a list of folks that you guys would like to have participate in that. That's will happen probably middle of August. They block out 2 hours at a time. They don't take necessarily 2 hours, but we want to make sure for the more difficult or more complicated systems that we've got enough time. Floor finishes and that kind of stuff are a little bit quicker, But we want to make sure that we've got good training on all the systems, because, I mean, since that original C wing, as we're calling it, existing building was built, and to today, our systems are quite advanced, and it'd be good opportunity for you guys to see it and touch it and feel it and that kind of thing. So, let's see here. Nothing really new I don't think we have really, I'm not seeing any big risks on our side that I'm concerned about. Budget wise, I think we're in really good shape. Probably scared you there when I showed our owner's contingency dipping below, going into the negative. And what I want to clarify is that, when we established the project budget, that was based on a snapshot before the general contractor was on board. That was to hold ourselves accountable for not just saying that we had this endless pot of money. But at the end of the day, right now, I'm projecting that when we accept all the things that we've done, there's still going to be between $450,000 and $600,000 of money to be able to look at other scopes that we've talked about, which is the 3-6 building. How are we going to take care of that? So that was some other direction that we'll deal with. If you want to, just this where the red is, just to clarify. So that section, and Lindsay, you had a question earlier. So those are allowances that the contractor carries for items that not really quite finite defined scope, but they're making some assumptions on things. The items that are in red are all items that are closed out, or they've transferred those funds to help pay for asks that we've had. So landscaping, fencing, the playground equipment, that was kind of returned and helped us fund some of the changes that we made for the playground, the parking lot, some grading that we've done on the kindergarten wing. But there's items in there that I feel that they're not going to spend. So I'm eyeballing those as well, as to say, hey, let's negotiate to have you reduce that, give some of those dollars back to us to manage. Items that I would say, the site surveying, they're going to have a little bit. I think that we'll probably get $3,000. That's 07. I'm projecting about 3,000. Structural modifications is number 9. I think all of that, I'm going to request that coming back because we've identified and done the work. The floor prep, if you walk through the C wing with us, there's a bunch of trenching that happened. There's some concrete. They're going to need to do some work to level that out to put the new flooring in. So not too worried about that one. Number 11 is, I think we're going to get a good chunk of that back. I would project 5,000 to 7,000 of that. And then the contractor salvage or supply. So they put a budget in there to assist, as we talk about the move back into those spaces. They've got hours that they're willing to help bring in staff to help us move, do what we can to help the teachers get ready for school to start, especially if we're pushing up against that, September 2nd deadline. Does it need to stay here? Do we say, no, we're going to go hire some temp, or we're going to hire some local folks to come in and help us? Might be less expensive. We can always request those dollars to come back. So just to kind of give you an idea, that's another contingency bucket that I'm eyeballing as a potential to bring back to the district. So that's about it on that. Schedule wise, again, we'll approve these few items we talked about today in the building committee. We've got a small group of individuals, then you can just plug through some of the photos, but on some contingency plan that if these scopes of work push up to getting us in September 2nd, we're working on a contingency plan of what do we do with the kiddos for maybe that first week if their classrooms aren't quite ready yet. How do we manage that? So that'll be something that'll be forthcoming. We've got an August 1st deadline for notifying Jackson what that looks like, as well as I've got a middle of August deadline for them to tell us if they're not going to make it or not, to where we can get ourselves ready for it. So just some really cool touches that, from a design side that are phenomenal. That one right there. So that wood paneling that's going on, that soffit, just touches that just make it go from building to a really nice space, warms everything up. We do have a lot of metal on the exterior of the building, so that wood natural touch really helps soften it. And when we walk into the main clear story, which is in the office where the learning stair outside of the music classroom, it's really just going to tie in some really cool features that the design team has done. So water heaters coming in, there's our learning stair. That's where they're hosting their subcontractor meetings so that Jacks can stand up and point at people and make them accountable, which is kind of nice. See some of our lighting fixtures. So in the 3-4 wing, we got the round. Well, I don't know that that's set, but then the other side, we've got triangles, which is pretty cool. Just showing all the drainage. So on the 3-6 playground side, got a lot of water coming off the roof on there. So they've addressed it. All direct drain into that manhole or that sump. So I think that all in all, you guys are going to be real happy with the product. So any questions?
So, and the area that you wanted filled in or leveled, is that the one right out here where it collects all the water?
Yeah, I think that you mean on the K2?
Yeah.
On the ceiling? Yeah, they're fixing that.
That's where that sump,
Yeah.
that kind of where it was a little bit of a
Yes,
swampy.
we don't have that
area
big mud pit at the bottom.
Yeah, that sump will help capture all that. And they're regrading it all to force it into that. And then we've got one on the new side as well.
Oh, okay.
There's a low spot where it's all directed to that
Okay.
sump as well.
But thanks for checking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions?
No. Thank you, sir.
You absolutely. My pleasure.
We'll move on to the consent agenda.
Good, keep that together too. I'll motion to approve the consent agenda. I second.
Any questions, comments?
Bus routes all staying the same as last year.
It's a lie. There's one more pickup, but the bus route is the same.
Okay.
Not know why. It's okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries to accept the consent agenda. Move on to new business. Policy, approval of new and revised policies for fiscal year 2026.
Policies, the main policies. For fiscal year 2026. Second.
Those were, who seconded?
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
How,
There's a lot.
yeah, there's a lot that happened there. What is easiest for you guys? Do you want me to go through the ones that require specific language changes? Do you want me to go through all of them? Because I wrote it to do both. I can go through all of them.
I was just gonna say, yeah, probably all the changes.
Yep, so we've got 2 new policies that are coming in. Policy 3655 is required by House Bill 745 to ensure that anyone with unsupervised student contact completes finger-based national criminal history background check. We're already doing this for the most part. Any of our staff or anybody that we're bringing in that has the ability to work one-on-one with kids, that policy stating they have to have a background check. Policy 4332, this is an optional policy that addresses flag and banner displays under House Bill 819. It limits what can be flown on government property, including schools. While adoption isn't required, districts must ensure only flags permitted by House Bill 819 are displayed. So basically, in the short of it, we don't have to adopt the policy, but we do have to follow the law. Might as well put the policy in place that's going on with that. So the recommendation would be we add it solely due to the fact that we have to follow the law, and then it's in our handbooks that we are following the law. Those are the 2 new policies. Jumping to required policy revision. Sorry, this kind of jumps around up there. I don't know if Lonnie, you wanted.
Just call it out and I'll put it up there, yeah.
Okay, policy. Required revision. Policy 2150, has been updated to reflect House Bill, and these are required. House Bill 369 requires youth suicide awareness and prevention training made available annually to school employees who work directly with students. Staff must complete at least 1 hour of training every 3 years, and the policy must outline these training requirements. So I'm summarizing where these are coming from. This was a required revision to the policy that we have. Policy 2165, that's updated to reflect House Bill 338. It expands early targeted intervention programs to include math alongside literacy. So the big push on that one is that we're including math. Currently, we have early literacy in our policy, or we would, but we don't have early intervention programs. So this would be our preschool programs where we're directly implementing it. We don't have that in the district. So because we currently don't offer any of these programs, the necessity of having 2165 is not necessary, thus recommending not including 2165 because we don't offer it. In the event that next year we decide, hey, we're moving with some early learning, it has to include math, has to include literacy, and we'll know that going into the next cycle of policies in the event that we extend to it. Policy 2334. This one's for House Bill 343. It requires districts to release a student for at least 1 hour a week for religious instruction upon parents' annual request without impacting A and B. The policy also includes optional language that allows districts to award academic credit for instruction recognizing independently accredited providers. We already have some of this, so my recommendation is that, and this is what you guys get to decide, we can extend the time longer than the minimum 1 hour requirement. We're already offering 1 hour, we have that. We're having school out at an earlier time, so even if we're still permitting the 1 hour, there's more time that could go that direction. So we have the option to increase the time. We ran with 1 in the past. The recommendation would still be to stick with 1. The second part of that is whether or not we are going to offer credit. The credit that would come from a religious course is, I'm going to read this because I'm not recommending adding the optional language for academic credit. And this recommendation is due to the language from section 4 found in policy 2413, which would require a final exam prepared and administered by a staff member in the district. So I would be requiring some staff to give a religious exam and prepare that exam. And I don't think that's something that is a good move for the district. So my recommendation is not to add that part, but to limit to 1 hour like we have in years past. Policy 2450, this is due to Senate Bill 181, to replace cooperation with consultation within the tribes. So that's what's happening on that one. Is a required change. We don't have to make any, there's no recommendation with that because that is the required change. Policy 2510 has a required change to reflect Senate Bill 369, requiring annual availability of youth suicide awareness and prevention staff training. Already do that one?
I don't have it on here.
Public, I already did it.
You talked about it.
I'm curious if I can flip back to the same one.
Just say 20.
Number was correct.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Don't call it not good.
So 2150 was suicide awareness and prevention.
There we go.
2510.
That's
Hold on, I have a typo, so I'll have to double check on that one. Give me, I'll circle back to 2510. We'll move forward. Policy 3110. This is House Bill 168, allowing A&E funding for special education preschool students based on aggregate instructional hours. It includes optional language. So the optional language is something that you guys get to decide. I chatted with Ann, just being the sped director. We had a conversation about it. The optional language is including districts to enroll special education students that we are seeking special educational students that have turned 19 after September 10th. We are not currently offering any of those early intervention programs. That is the first portion of it, and the recommending of not adding the optional language for districts seeking to enroll special ed students over the age of 19. We don't have any students that are fit in that. We're not going out looking for students that we are wanting to, we're not seeking, and that is the language that it states that we're seeking the 19 plus. So Ann and I chatted. The recommendation there is not to go out and seek that one. On that one, so I can back up in my other notes to make sure I'm coming back to 3510. Policy 3235. This one's updated to reflect House Bill 32. These ones are also required, which allows video recording of students during open events to the public without requiring parental permission. Student and staff handbooks will be revised accordingly to that one, so that's a required. Basically at basketball events, when we have someone that wants to film, open to the public, they're allowed to film. Policy 3410. It's been updated to reflect House Bill 599, requires district to notify parents of their right to opt out of physical or mental health screenings or surveys and to receive the results. This requirement does not apply to threat assessments, which are for the safety and disciplinary purposes. House Bill 4520, or excuse me, Policy 4520 is to reflect House Bill 567. This one's required that districts may enter into a countywide multi-district agreement. Required that we add it. I doubt we're moving it in the multi-district where we're sharing funds with other districts within our county. Policy 5120 has been updated for House Bill 226. It adds state penalties and enforcements for failing to maintain employee work authorization forms, federal requirements, and the staff handbook will have to, or it reinforces existing federal requirements, and we'll update our staff handbook to that one. The 5120 is, it's immigration is what that one's stemming from. 5122 is an update for House Bill 745 requiring fingerprint background checks for all staff and volunteers for unsupervised students. Some of these, it's because they are going in different categories within the policies, if that makes sense, whether it's student, staff, whatever. 5250 is updated in reference to House Bill 602, requires the non-renewals of non-tenured teachers for financial reasons to appear on public agenda before June 1st. Policy 5321 is updated to align with House Bill 667. It prohibits discrimination against employees seeking or holding public office. It ensures that they have protected leave without forced use of benefits first. Policy 8111 is a clarification language changed for transportation of students with disabilities in regards to House Bill 250. Policy 8450 is updated to align with Senate Bill 86, which replaces the written AED maintenance plan with a requirement of notifying local 911 services of AED locations. So prior, there was a bunch of paperwork that we had to put out there for where our AEDs were and how they were regimented. It tightens all that language up and just basically says anybody local that's coming into our facilities has to be able to have access to know where those are at. And we just have to update them. Those are all the required. I'm going to get back to one. It's supposed to be 3210. 3210 is adding language for equal educational opportunities for acceptance of private and homeschool students seeking to participate in extracurricular activities are required to provide proof and identity of residence to participate. That one's also following, it's for the students, so similar to the staff, where immigration laws, we are verifying that they are allowed to be in the country. That's what that's having.
So you're recommending that one?
That one's, it's a required
It's
provision.
required.
Those ones are all required. That one didn't have any language change to it.
Gotcha.
So the language changes had recommended statements that went along with them.
Okay.
I can go through those individually if you want me to again, because I know that was a lot, really, really fast.
I don't have any problems. with
Minus
the
2100.
recommendations. I was looking-
2100, not 100.
Yep, it's there.
Mhm.
Did I talk about 2100?
I just didn't talk.
No.
I don't. 2100 is. And it's an exception. What I got out. There's a lot in there.
It was a booklet.
Go to the booklet.
This was the one adding.
I see what happened. I ended up flipping over, so I missed a page. Here's where we're at. Policy. Okay. Required policy revisions, I missed this whole page. Policy 1111. Is a required one that's to align with House Bill 406. Changes candidate filing and withdrawal deadlines and outlines new timelines. For calling, amending, and certifying school elections. That was a required change. Policy 2100 is a policy updated for House Bill 591. It's including language of school activities for legally recognizing commemorative days, including the newly established Freedom Week. Trustees must ensure appropriate observations, and the recommendation, and this is to the superintendent or designee that you guys choose to report of these activities to the board. Basically, the new requirements coming in that they're adding days in that we have to be able to commemorate as a school. The days that are listed up there, Lincoln's birthday, Washington's Arbor Day, Flag Day, Citizen Day, American Indian Heritage Day, Columbus Day, Pioneer Day, Freedom Week, and other days designated by the legislation of the governor. So the language changes that, all of those highlighted parts. The recommendation would be, and then there's a second part when you scroll down. And these are required with optional. The additional of school days that are flagged as holidays. So the recommendation that I would ask is that we would add Martin Luther King Day to the holidays list because it's not there. And then also recommend that changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day in our handbook. That would be my recommendation for 24 or 2100. Policy 2132 has been updated to reflect House Bill 599, which expands parental rights by requiring an opt-out for non-identifiable student data collection and an opt-in for any collecting involving personal identifiable information, which with limited expectations will update the student handbook for that one. Policy 2132 is a required revision with optional language change. Or not 2132, 2135. 2135 is to reflect changes under House Bill 471, which clarifies parent notification of opt-in and opt-out requirements for human sexuality and the newly defined identity instruction. Human sexuality remains an opt-out while identity instruction is an opt-in. Staff and student handbooks will be updated to accommodate that one. The language that you have choice on is when do they get to opt in and opt out. We do all of our big pushes for paperwork in the fall. The recommendation that I would say is that we're doing it at the beginning of the year. It's going to impact the junior high and high school more than anywhere else, but if you're collecting paperwork and you're trying to do it by the semester, you're going to have a whole new paperwork push out mid-semester. So recommend that we are doing that at the beginning of each year because that is when we are collecting paperwork. And then I went back to the appropriate page.
Currently, right?
Say that
We
again.
do that currently.
We do that
Anyway,
currently.
right?
We do that currently. So what happened is there was a bunch of discrepancies on the language around human sexuality and what they were requiring. At the whole state level, it turned into a lot of confusion even for teachers. So this also tightened up language. If some kid says, well, what about whatever in the middle of class? Prior, maybe it's like, don't address the kid. Well, that's also not learning. So basically, if it's not an instructive thing, like we're not doing a lesson on it and a kid, due to the context of where they're talking, asks a question, the teacher can then re-answer it and say, if it's something that you're wanting to have, I can design a lesson around it and we can have that a part of it. Typically, what we're looking like with this is you're gonna have your sex ed classes. We're gonna notify parents, here's the curriculum that we're using for our sex ed classes. We're gonna send that out. to those grade bands that are going to be in those classes. AP Bio, they're gonna have, or anatomy and physiology, if there's any of those courses that might dabble in it, they're gonna send out the notification just the same. So, and that one's had a lot of change just on the language portions of it. This one adds clarity to also protect the teachers, because that was a big issue that was in the last ones.
And how that works is an opt-in and then the notification goes out when they're about ready to start those courses.
It's an opt-out of human
opt-out.
sexually, opt-in
In,
for
okay.
identity, human
Okay.
identity, remember
Yeah.
what they called that one, that was new, identity instruction. We don't currently have a curriculum for identity instruction to be able to share with anybody, and curriculums are approved by you guys. So you would see that before the identity instruction piece came out. Make sure I got the other ones. 2165, we talked about. 2150 was one that I thought we had confusion on, but I just flipped that to the exact same page because I flipped it over. That's what happened. I read it twice because that's the first one, so we didn't miss any. So those are the required revisions, and those have the specific language of what gave you optional choices. Those are the options again that the recommendations follow, but again, sped directors kind of stating towards the one, and the rest of them are things we're either currently doing or it gives us the timelines that I feel are appropriate to be able to move forward with how we've been doing things in the past.
I'm okay with all of the recommendations.
Sorry, it was a lot.
Always is. Yes. Yeah,
We did have a motion.
Seconded.
Do we need to revise it to say, accepting the recommendations?
I think it's a long delay, so I can. Yep, so we just need to
All
vote.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to accept the approval of new and revised policies for fiscal year 2026. Elementary teacher fiscal year 2021 FTE, Jennifer. I'm not even gonna try.
I think it's Kirsty.
It's,
Yep, so,
On
we're,
motion.
oh, sorry,
Oh, second.
good call.
All right, now you're good.
Now we're ready?
Yes.
Okay. We were able to interview her, right after school got out. She is a local person, lives at the bottom of the Y. Very excited to come up and work. She would be, just starting her second career, but has experience like in the preschool area. Obviously we have one reference that I know very well, so she comes very well. I think we're lucky to get her, to be honest.
And this would be adding a staff member because we had resignations at the end of the year to fill positions.
This would be because of the fact that we had to split first grade in November, so we cannot do one second grade. We had Meltzer Rausch. She took a position in Germany. So it's to fill that position because we have 32 kindergartners now going into first grade. And Miss Smith was not willing to take all 32 of them on. Even though she did a great job with the 25.
26. But just clarifying, because we had some resignation of staff, we
No.
didn't have enough staff to cover this position.
Well, that it has nothing to do with resignation of staff. It has everything to do with the fact that the first grade got over 20 kids.
And we
This
didn't-
last
and we
year.
didn't have in-house staff to cover that position.
Right, so we hired that second first grade position. Then that teacher, of course, that was a temp, resigned.
Yeah.
And so we need to still fill that first grade position because we have 30 first graders coming in. We have not filled the position that was vacated by retirement.
Okay.
Cause that the incoming fourth grade is still sitting at 25. But however, we pick up 3 or 4, we're gonna have to look at that. So if you want to think of it as the retirement position, we have not filled.
And we didn't have on-staff qualified staff to fill that position.
No, and
Really
it goes in-house, right? I
Yep.
mean, we had, I guess the best way for me to put it is we did not have anybody on staff that put in a letter of interest to apply for that position.
Thank you. No, I just was clarifying with some of all the movings of last year and what we had to do, why we have to hire a full-time teacher.
Yeah, luckily, in our kindergarten right now is already above 20 kids, which, right? Cause so the thought process was last year that I thought, cause we only had like 13 kids enrolled in kindergarten this time last year, right? So we thought we could borrow a kindergarten teacher to help in the first grade. That didn't happen when 32 kids showed up on the first day of school, right? Which is what kind of put us into that triage mode. And again, it goes back to, we have to do what's best for kids with as much money as we can afford to do it with.
Okay. Any more? Okay, all in favor to hire the elementary teacher?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to the Arlee Federation Teachers Negotiation Committee proposal, one-year agreement for fiscal year 2026.
I'll motion to approve. Second.
I have no questions. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to accept the negotiations. Move on to the admin salary negotiations, superintendent.
I just want to go,
There were executive session.
yeah, just say we should go. Doing motion before we go to executive session? No. We go to executive and then motion one time.
He just needs to.
As the board chair makes their determination of right to exceed the merits of public disclosure, as such, the board will be going into executive session for 10 minutes.
We're going to.
Sure. Don't think I had much in it. Not having you.
I missed that early?
If I can.
Are we getting back in session?
So I will motion to approve a 0% increase on the superintendent salary to include the cell phone stipend in the contract language, remove based on weekend duties out of the contract language, getting paid out for personal time not used in the contract, reduce the contract days worked to 240, and increase the personal time by 5 personal days to 15 personal days total. Okay. I'll second that.
Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to the admin salaries. For fiscal year 2026. Elementary, junior high principal and high school AD principal.
So my recommendation for elementary, junior high principal, salary increase to 93,604. And high school AD principal at 82,949.
I will move to approve those figures as stated.
A second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to classified increase to base fiscal year 26 1%.
I'll motion to approve the classified increase to base for fiscal year 2026, 1%. Second.
Clarification a little.
Yeah.
The 1% for that, is to create a step-in lane that is worth roughly 2.6%. The 1% of the base creates a step-in lane that is, or a step in their lanes that is roughly 2.6%.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to approve the classified increase of 1%. Funds transfer general to compensated absences.
Are we just recognizing this or voting on it?
Yeah, just recognizing that we're gonna move money into compensated absences from general funds, yeah.
We motion on that?
Yep, please.
Okay. So I will, move to that. Or recognize that.
Thank you.
I'll second for a second. Whatever.
We'll move on to the student attendance agreement outgoing acknowledge.
I'll motion to acknowledge the outgoing student agreements. Second.
Any questions? Yeah.
Do they have to? Do you know reasons why they're not going out of or in district, or is that not,
No, they're not required to tell you,
they're not required?
only if they're homeschooling.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
You should come and comment on.
I know.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for the student attendance agreement outgoing acknowledged. Move on to student attendance agreement incoming approved.
I will move to approve the student attendance agreements in council. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to J, appoint Lindsay on that as third party contact regarding softball field logistics.
I will move to appoint Lindsay. Second.
Question?
It's strictly just so I can communicate with Jackson Construction to try to work out some water line things we're looking into.
And Dan wanted me to pass on that if we need him help, making the meeting with Darren happen, to get in touch with him, he'd happy to do.
Okay, perfect.
All in favor?
I
Opposed?
abstain.
Abstaining? Opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks, guys.
Move on to hourly exempt positions, IT director and kitchen supervisor.
I'll motion to approve. Second.
Both of those positions, basically, they're having a lot of overtime or some weird contact hours, so hypothetically, we have a basketball game and the camera system goes down, we call DJ, we have to pay for DJ. So it's nice to be able to have those positions that have kitchen supervisor, a random truck show up on the weekend that has happened, they have to come down, and if they're salaried, they just show up and do it. So it streamlines that process, then we know exactly for budgeting purposes, this is what we are budgeting for them. So
So
streamline.
we're moving them to salary.
Moving them to salary.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to move the IT director and kitchen supervisor to hourly position,
Salary.
salary position. Sorry. And then we'll move on to superintendent reports. So on the lights, what, are they the same like lights we had, or what kind of lights are we getting?
No, so we'll move into LED
Okay.
for everything. The LED lights had the longest delay. Everything else is tentatively showing up in the near future, I'll say. The lights were 8 weeks out a few weeks ago, and he's still working on an update and traveling from other countries this direction. The hope is that we will be up and going for the first game. That's the hope. We've seen timelines. We're gonna hope that it'll be the first game. So, and I know he's, Arlee Electric, I don't know, as long as you guys are all up to date. Arlee Electric's the one that's kind of taking the lead on everything and has been huge at coordinating, making sure that we have all the stuff. We bought the power poles, recently, kicked out an invoice for that, so those will be purchased. The brackets have been purchased, so all the hanging material, then bring a lift in, pole to go up, bring a lift in, you'll put the brackets on the lighting at the exact same time, utilizing our current wiring structure that we have below, because if we started dabbling in that, it was not good. So. Other questions?
Minimum question. Okay. Move on to the Arlee Federation Teachers Report.
Oh, I have to go back and recognize we had 2 resignations. Shelby Shorts resigned from secretary position of junior high. Jake Bosley resigned from wrestling, assistant wrestling coach. Just making sure.
Is that getting posted for the secretary position? Or are we doing it in?
It's still to be decided. Yep. But I can kick you an email as soon as that decision has been made.
Nothing from. Move on to approval of claims payroll reports.
My apologies that they're not all together this time. My Adobe thing was not working.
I will move to approve the claims payroll.
Second.
Anyone see anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Or opposed? Motion carries. Approval of claims payroll report. Next regular board meeting, August 19th.
Oh, cause
And
Still look good with that one?
yeah, we moved it. Yes. Okay, everyone good with that? Okay,
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting. Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Wow.
They had it for